Welcome to the final episode of Series 89, everyone. This month we have returning guest Petrusha to learn about the game he is designing called Ghost in the Shell, a forged in the dark cyberpunk RPG set in the world of Ghost in the Shell. In today's episode, we finish our discussion segment before getting into some wonderful fanfic. But before we get to that, we do have some calls to action coming up after the show. Here's what to expect. You can join me here after the show for a reminder about a quick break that we are planning to take for the month of December, as well as to get the latest info on where the Ghost of the Shell Kickstarter is sitting at right now with only 3 days left. You'll also hear information about our Patreon, how to leave a review for the show, and our patron thank yous as usual, including a brand new patron this month. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone. I do want to talk about how we thought this game did stack up to other games in terms of character creation, specifically, because there's we've covered a few cyberpunk games in the past. I know Headspace
good
was
one.
probably
That's a good
the
pull.
first one that we did. I know we did Cyberpunk Red as well.
We've done Shadowrun.
Shadowrun, of course. How can I forget Shadowrun?
How could you forget Shadowrun? What a chaos!
The longest series in our.
We did it with the Neo Scum crew. It was chaos, but it was great.
Yeah, I mean, we had so many people. We were only able to make 3 characters between 6 people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how about
that would have been a 2-month series.
I have plenty of memories of like legit 4 hours sitting at a table making characters. And, it's not like it's not fun. But then people who like love min-maxing who, you're like, well, it took 14 hours. I mean, obviously they slept and had breaks and all kinds of stuff, but like, they revisited and revisited.
Yeah, it's very much about what do you want from your experience there of like, if min-maxing is the fun for you, that's awesome. Like, go for it. If getting to the table quickly is what you're in it for, maybe that's not the game for you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
See, Shadowrun character takes so long because you want death to be something you avoid, so you don't have to make another character.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you don't have to do this over again. That's the entire reason that you don't want your character to die is just because you don't want to have to make one again.
And then you get a Chaos Goblin who's just throwing grenades at like toll booths because it's fun. Right. And then, and then there goes 6-hour characters that just,
Exactly. This one was really fast.
I was going to say, just because you mentioned it, one of my favorite Shadowrun deaths that I was thinking was like a player making like a Mr. Johnson character, and their bodyguard was this troll who loved their Panzer assault cannon or whatever the big one is that's hard to get that you shouldn't have, but only a troll could hold. And just like, again, Shadowrun characters like that, like he didn't want to get busted. So like the troll grabbed him and jumped off of something like the San Francisco Bridge because like he could probably soak it. And like, but only that level of dedication of like, you can't put me in bars. You can't, like, this character took so long to, like, where they're like, they jumped off of a bridge and then swam, like to escape because they're like, if I go behind bars, I'm never getting out. And this character, I got to play this character.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah.
It didn't work out, but it's.
But it aimed for effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I appreciate how quick and snappy this was. Again, for
it was so fast.
A cyberpunk kind of game. I do. Ryan and I didn't get to do a lot of the sort of like cybernetic parts just because of the way we put our stats.
It's the same. It's same as the naturals. You just had a different list.
But it works the same way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which I felt was.
They're a little less shoehorned because like one of the reasons why there was less in the quick start was because in the beginning we were like, okay, well, there's some concepts of things we wanted. And then a few of them didn't make it in there because they were maybe a little too duplicative. But we had a longer list, but it just didn't make it.
For sure.
I have no good answer for you of why there's not more in that first one. Yeah. But yeah, it was the cybernetics, like I was kind of reading a handful of them, so they kind of go all over the place because you can do whatever with those.
Right.
But then the natural ones are going to give you things that are going to stick with you, but they're more about growth and affection and favors and human and social.
Yeah.
And, but they're not limited to it. But
no,
which is a really interesting dichotomy, right? Because like you're always playing with duality in all steps of character creation here, which is a phenomenal theme to carry through from start to finish, right?
I also think it's a theme that like comes up a lot in sort of cyberpunk fiction, but isn't one that is super supported in a lot of those games. That it's like you have like one mechanic that like manages that part of it, you know, of like what is your humanity. But it is also like a big overarching question of like, you know, that it comes up time and time again, but the game itself doesn't do a lot with it. I will also say that I think, you know, a point that I made earlier too, and you know, one that I like about games like Forged in the Dark and Powered by the Apocalypse and stuff too, is that you have the ability to, you know, kind of customize your character without it being a ton of math and point buys and having to spend 8 hours like digging through to find the right thing. I very much got to just say, I've decided this is the right thing. And now I have narrated what it means that makes it right for me, you know, because things are so broad, but like you get the ability to kind of narrate how any of it works or what it does, you know, like things like our items, you know, that told us so much about our characters and, you know, defined those kinds of things without, you know, spending 40 hours looking through a list of things to buy in a shop.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the draw of some of the other cyberpunk games that are out there. It's like, this is make a character and choose a ton of different cybernetics and items and weapons and qualities and whatnot, the RPG.
Right.
And
it is
like,
honestly like, catalog the RPG though, like is what it becomes, I think. Yeah, is, you know, it's the Sears catalog of cybernetics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the big draw, like especially, and I know one of your favorite genres, Amelia, the mech RPG genre.
It's so
like a lot of games focus on the like nitty gritty customization of your character and your mech and whatnot, and I feel like cyberpunk is kind of like the personalized mech RPG.
Yeah, it suffers from that same problem that I have with mech games. It's like I have spent so much time trying to like figure out and buy all these things, and then they all have individualized stats that I have to remember how to use in the moment, and you know I've got to go back and remember that like this costs this, and I got it from here, and I like remember to use each of those things, and you know like that.
Now, what version of my cyber deck do I have?
Awesome, but for me, that's too much.
Yeah,
that's too much. I want to play the game. I don't want to do the math, and I don't want to do, you know, bookkeeping the RPG either.
And see, I'm one of the people that does like all that nitty gritty detail and whatnot, and I like chomp into that so hard because it's like I love the customization and I've got 14 different cyber decks to choose from.
Yeah, you are naturally like a min-maxer, and you know, like not in a bad way of like I'm going to make the optimal, but for you, finding that perfect combination of things is where the fun is at. Like you like that puzzle of like, how do I make it all fit and work together? And like,
yeah, exactly.
So did you feel like this still had some of that? I feel like
part of me was that I was like victimized as a teenager of like, we had to follow the rules. Like I've met so many groups now that have different philosophies of it, but it's funny that like we were such rules lawyers to all of us and we min-maxed everything. And it was just like, just how we played games. So it's very funny to like later in life realize some of the stuff too, where I was like, oh, but we didn't do it like out of need. It was just kind of like how we grew up doing it. And there was because we played in game stores. So there was also elements of like, hey, did you see what Pete did with this character? Like how he got this, you know, so it became almost like we just did it. Like, because we had groups of people that could kind of come and go. Yeah. So you also, I don't know, it just created like, Pete's better at making this kind of character, or like, you know, Chris is really nailed like that, you know, whatever it is.
And I think like for a lot of people, that is where the fun is. And like, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's hard when like the whole genre of like, it's like all cyberpunk games, you have to do that. And I'm like, well, like I feel that way, or like up until recently have about mech games. I'm like, that's just a genre of game that is not for me, because every single one of them had that sort of, and I was like, but I don't like that.
That crunchiness.
So now I just don't play mech games.
But now we're seeing a lot of that crunch being removed from those, like this one.
Looking at you, Salvage Union.
Yeah, salvage unit. Like you take that crunch and you abstract it to a point where it's like, it doesn't matter like what color of like legs your character has.
Right.
Your character has cyber legs. It has mech legs, and tell me what it looks like in your mind.
Yeah.
And
does that take away from the experience?
You don't need 20 options for it.
So I'm like, I guess my question for you, Ryan, then is, as somebody who likes doing that min-maxy kind of thing that you're very much like, I love to look through the catalog and buy all of the things. And, you know, do you feel like you got what you wanted out of this still, even though it doesn't have that?
I still got a little bit of that. Like, one of the things that I chose was choose an ability from another playbook. Yeah. And so I got to look through all the abilities of all the playbooks. That's what took me so long. And I'm like reading every single one. I'm like, which one fits my character?
Everything you wanted in the catalog. And sometimes that's what you want, is to circle your wish list.
Exactly. It scratched that little min-max itch, but like how does this narratively fit my character the best, right? How does this narratively fit my concept the best? And like kind of early on in the process, my brain locked on to the whole like owl theme, right? Yeah. And like, so I'm thinking stealthy, high up, and like seeing everything and getting into places unseen. Yeah, exactly. So like everything kind of informed my decisions from there.
Yeah.
And like being able to like look through the abilities and say, well, this one feels very much like something that has control of the situation, something that sees from above, something that is able to kind of say, you know, I prepared for this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was fantastic to kind of be able to have the options to kind of sift through and min-max a little bit.
If only you had the others. Like, that's the only downside. I was like, I get why they trimmed them, you know, like why they grabbed a couple, but I was like, there's a lot of good ones, you know. So
I know.
Yeah, that was the one hard part about doing like a quick start kind of a thing.
And where they gave you the one, like usually you'd pick like two, but like we really want you to pick one of the action ones, because it's almost like, how can you not? But you don't have to. You could pick around them if you wanted to. But like, so they're like, we'll give you one of those, and then here's two of the other ones you could choose. But like, I think the Bato one, there was one of the, Batu, like the second ability for the souped up soldier, the ranger, like is not that great for like the quick start. It's like, if you say something, if you can like get in a word, if the last word is you saying something wise about the greater perspective of the world based on what's happening here, like you regain a ghost. But like, there's not many people who are going to play that character in the quick start and care about ghosts. Like, it's just very much like not going to work that way, because that character is just so souped up to be a battle monster in the ck start because of the limited choices. But it's funny because I was like, but that ability is awesome. Like, it's great because Bato is always the guy who's like, you know, everyone's done talking. It's like, well, war never changes. And then like walks away and maybe even says a few more words. And like, I've been there since the beginning. You know what? I've seen faces along the spectrum, but you know why it never changes? Power. And then it would just be this little narrative thing, like a monologue that a player would take for like a second, and that would be cool, right? And you're just rewarding them for fitting in stuff like that. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I think I'd be interested to do like as advanced, you know, like as you to kind of like see as advancement happens to like that kind of like battle between like, you know, adding more cybernetics and things like that, like how that kind of plays out. But overall, like for me, I liked that it was like I could just decide I wanted to do something and I didn't have to find it. I could just be like, I want a cool magnifying glass that like lets me look at everything. Like,
absolutely.
And now I have it because I said it. For me, that's very satisfying of like, you know, because I think a lot of those games, they suffer from the like, we want to make sure everybody can have everything that they want, so we have to write everything ever possible. Whereas it's like, no, you could actually just put that work on the players and be like, you tell me what you want. Great.
And you two are nailing it. I mean, like that's the big thing is that I was talking about like how the technology slice of this is different. But like the beautiful thing is the game design is it really makes a different game. And that in its essence is like, if we can run at that, like we've made Ghost in the Shell. But if I can't get players to run at that, then they're playing Shadowrun or they're playing Cyberpunk. And I know that that's what I don't want, is I don't want them to feel like I've seen some games that I can't imagine how you'd play them, like D&D, and people managed, because that's just what role-playing games are, is like some kind of a dungeon crawl, and we're going to go fight our way through it, no matter if the game has no combat rules. Like, it's just, they're still kind of trying to fit that round peg in the square hole kind of thing, or square peg in the round hole. But like in this, it's like, yeah, if it doesn't get to these places, like it knows the narrow space it needs to live in. And hopefully we've provided the tools and how we make your characters and how the mission's designed, that like it gives you this different slice. And even if you can't put your finger on it, that hopefully it takes you to like this little part of cyberpunk that you don't see that often, because the rest of it, there's all kinds of games for that, So this one hopefully is like, we are above the law. We are like this special authority unit. We are living legends, but we have this narrative freedom, and this duality, and we're going to find out who we really are, these special people. So
I will say something that leaves it more open like this also solves that problem of Shadowrun having to like constantly push their timeline forward too, of like, well, we've written this technology and now this is real technology, so we got to put this in, we got to invent new things. And whereas they're like, I don't know, players, you tell me something from the future, like solves that problem too.
Yeah, and if they want it to be more Shadowrun or something, they can like, cool, you can do that. Like you can make it that. But but what I'm trying is to make sure you get into the little, like the Venn diagram of where you need to be to feel Ghost in the Shell. So
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the mission design, but we don't need to, but it is neat. The one thing I wanted to mention was that basically, from the get-go how many danger clocks you're going to be introduced to that are mission related, that are bad, that are story related. So it's one way of the GM saying, hey, players, 3 times in this mission, I'm going to, out of the blue, do something you couldn't have avoided that is going to start a danger clock that's going to move the story forward. Yeah. And that's because these stories of Ghost in the Shell are only worth telling if they're the ones that catch you off guard. And all the other stuff that we didn't play out went swimmingly good. No problems, no surprises, right? Those aren't the interesting Ghost in the Shell stories. This one got an episode or a movie, right? And that's the one you're playing. And that's because it has these 3 things that are because you're trying to catch up to do anything about the thing. And usually it is like some major cyber virus or mind wipe or people being brainwashed, or, someone's trying to start a war, right? Or some kind of distraction so they could steal the thing while, causing political havoc. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see here. Where are we? I keep asking other questions that are not in the outline. Okay. So
it's good to have questions, though.
How do you think that the process of creating characters in this game sets up people's expectations for what the game is going to be like? Like, what does it tell us about what a game of this is going to be like when we sit down?
Again, credit to Forge in the Dark, because I think that it does it. Playbooks do it very well. And I think that having some experience and then working on this, I think how it's narratively, narrowing down your choices from like what playbook you choose for the play style you want, and then allowing you to customize it, but not over customize it. But like Ryan said, there's always going to be ways to like pick from other abilities in other places to give you the modularity that we want in most cyberpunk games, of like to break out of your playbook some if you want to, but still giving you that mold of like pushing you towards, we are specialists, we're the best of our type, so we are kind of narrowing down into these ways, but you have these ways of making yourself more unique, but everything's always this cost of your humanity. So keeping you that in the forefront of your mind the whole time you make your character, and then kind of ending with the cherry of like, what makes you human? Like this ghost memory, how I choose to look, what are my signature things that kind of rounds it out. And by the end of it, maybe it started with you feeling like a cookie cutter, but then feeling more like, oh, but there's a person in there. Who is that person? In Ghost in the Shell doesn't really get deeper than that, of like, it's for you to put on the narrative or the fiction or your character, like by making your character have more personality than that. And I think that's fitting also for the game, which that's getting kind of really high-minded of, like designed or artistic, whatever, but that just happened that way, like that you like, cool. And then it's your own, and then you really play it. And then you think about how you're going to react to things and talk about things. But, like I said, I was really proud of the character creation. So a lot of it really just worked really well quickly. So a lot of that is, sometimes you just get lucky and that how things just pan out. 20 years from now, if I have a track record of these things, and I could tell you, oh, it was all skill. But like there are just some things that really work out, and some things that you just hit your head over and over against, and they may never work out, even if they're a good idea.
I think some of that's a sign, though, that it is like the right system for the game that you want. Then if it feels like it just kind of snaps into place like that, that it's a sign that like that is how it should go, rather than you trying to like force mechanics to do a thing that it just isn't feeling quite right. But you're like, I want this mechanic, and
the biggest thing that's going to be divisive is combat. Right, is the elements of combat that have been added on. Like when I was looking at some stuff today, I was like, oh, there's some Facebook posts to like Mana Project that like had somebody was like, hey, did I get this right with the damage on this thing? And I was like, oh, I need to go answer that, because like I wasn't paying attention to these things. But like, what if you don't know? Like you don't get it, right? There are things here that are different. Yeah. And there are elements of like, so this was kind of mentioned, but I just to like toss it out so you get an idea what I'm talking about, is the like, let's make it like hand to hand, right? So two of you are fighting, you're kung fuing, you both got cybered bodies. One of you's got a 5 shell and the other one of you's got a 6. So when you go to attack the other one and you roll your dice, it's going to be based on your actions, right? So you're going to get a die for every action. You get 1 based on your ghost or your shell. So also that was really to remind you of the duality too, is like I get 1 from ghost or the shell, depending on which side I'm on, right? To make me think of like how I'm in the head of this person, the will, or this is the physicality of this creature, or this body, this robot, or whatever. Yeah. And then what actions can I plug in? And usually that gets you somewhere between 2 to 5 dice, to roll, depending if you're like the sniper seems like they can find a way to get to like 5. And then if they get, then you roll, and then every success in Forged in the Dark is a 4 to 6. 4 to 5 has some consequence too, but it still succeeded. But the successes that do damage are the ones that are over the other person's ghost or shell. So 6 always damages, right? When you take damage, your number goes down. So after someone starts to actually like break you open, you get easy to dismantle. Same with ghosts. So that point is, it just really makes it hard to like first pierce the tank. Like we're going to hit it a few times and it's just not really breaking it. But then once we do, because also we don't have a story game that goes into combat for like, 12 rounds, right? So, but there's this element of you're invincible till you're not. And that's kind of cool too. Yes. The point is, so if I roll and I get 3 successes and I'm the person that had the 5 we'll say 6. I had the 6 shell, and I had a 4, 5, and 6. Right, the 6 would deal damage, not the 5, because it's got to be greater. So, but since I had 1 shell higher, I can actually re-roll the 4 and 5 that were successful in the action to see if I can get a 6 to also deal more damage. So that's the basic mechanic: is that you can re-roll the dice that don't quite hit the mark to give you more, meeting more of your potential by how skillful you are. So it's a layered different thing that we haven't seen in anything, but it's not too foreign of an idea. Yeah. But it's just foreign enough that, it's going to be people like, oh, I never did that before. Like, so when do I reroll or this? And if you have like critical effect, you can add 2 more dice for damage. There's a couple other ways, and some special abilities might increase, like the soldier, the ranger character, when they fight you, one of their special abilities for their class is like you have 1 less shell when they're fighting you. So if you have a 6, when I attack you, it's a 5. And then if we beat you down to a 4, well, when I attack you, it's a 3. Yeah. And these also give people opportunities to be like, I'm getting out of here. I'm running a route. Right. Because like once you break me open, I'm like, oh, this is going bad quick. So that was just to have some crunch, have some more grit, have some more rolls, but it also give you feelings of different things. And I also encourage the game master in a couple ways to occasionally pick up the dice and be more adversarial. Because what's lost in Forged in the Dark for combat is sometimes like, we usually are always like, oh, it's great. They're not adversarial. They're not your opponent. It's not the GM versus the players. But some games, maybe you do want a little bit of that. Like, I want a little bit of the tension and the threat of like the game master is actually rolling attacks on us, so there's elements of that too. And it's more meant for like boss fights. We call them nemesis here. But like, they're just some concepts of just, again, trying to get those boss fight moments in a game that doesn't have mechanics that usually deal with that, right? Or to have some more tension at the table of like the big bad, whether it's a giant tank or something or a sub.
Yeah.
Adds a little bit of tactics and whatnot to it too, which is nice. In a game that's like normally theater of the mind and just go through narratively stuff. This is like, I have to think about what sort of stuff am I going to be throwing at this thing in order to get it down faster, right?
The one thing that's funny, that's tricky about that is because it's Forged in the Dark, there are times you might be like, I build this clock to hack the thing, and I build this clock to like outrun the thing, and I build this clock to like convince the thing. But then you're like, but I'm going to do some damage to the shell here, or am I going to try to hack the thing to get it to leave? So there are elements too where the layers become something of just total choice. Like we have plenty of times where the players go, yeah, we could break the shell of that thing, the 5 of us, and ambush it, but it's going to be a lot easier if we just get to the battery thing and shut it down and reprogram it to leave. And then so it's weird dealing with that as the designer, is sometimes being like, how to delineate those different things of having the options, but at the same point, making sure that we don't always lose the tension of the cool thing. And so maybe that's where the Nemesis thing kind of comes into more play of sometimes the game master assumes like a Metal Gear Solid or something like this has to be the boss fight and it's got to be interesting. So now I get to react to everything you do with my own thing. And
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I love to ask designers, especially when they come on the show and we get to this point, is what do you think is one of the biggest flaws of character creation in this system? And what is your favorite part?
Okay. I was thinking about the flaws. Yeah, sorry. Chris, my first answer was like an interview answer. It was like, like a job interview answer. It was like, well, the biggest flaw of this game is that you didn't have the playbook sheets. You had to write too much. And I'm sorry about that. The biggest flaw, did you say of character creation in particular?
Yep, in this system specifically, yep.
I think it comes back to, I don't think it's a flaw for the design of the game, but it's a flaw. Like flaws sometimes are like, well, the biggest, right? Like the thing that sticks to you is like I said, it was really weird to like pull back layers of like character personality and to put it, for it to be fringe. Like here's a memory. Stuff that you could really dissect from a character, like you could carve off easily because they're not like in the ebb and flow of everything this character does. Your playbook, your role in the squad is more important than your individuality. Like in Chew, all the playbooks had a lot more personality baked in. Like you're the hotshot type of cop, right? Like this is the one that's going to drive cars through buildings, and the inspector is more by the book. So the mascot is the cheerleader, the supportive one, the one who gets away with the comedic stuff of like talking to the villain before you fight them because like they could just walk up to him, and everyone else is like, you can't do it, they'll kill you. This one's like more by the book in that way of like the sniper has to be this amazing sniper. How do we do that? How do we allow them to be elements of the best, and what is the best?
Yeah.
So flaw of the game is in line with the design, but I don't know if that's still something that weighs on me of like, if you get to personalize the personality of your character enough. And that's because, like I said, it's just not where the weight of the medium puts on it. I like the source material, But from my take in RPGs, usually that's the heart. So it's weird.
Yeah.
So I kind of keep having to defend and sort of point that out. Nobody seems to mind, but like I said, you get it in the end, but it's just a weird thing that usually you don't, I don't know. Yeah. Usually you're not avoiding some of the hallmarks of like game design or something. Like I've never had to argue why less character was better. Something like, so I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, it's something that you as a person are like, I don't know about this. And it's like, no, it works. And you're like, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I personally like it.
Yeah, usually it's the kind of thing that I put in more of, like my character is this, so I get these special things because if I role play this way, especially in a Forge in the Dark game.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is really interesting in sort of like a much more narrative focused kind of game. Usually those are the kinds of questions that you're answering as part of character creation is like, this problem comes up. How do you solve it? And what does that tell you about, So yeah, it's
almost like it has to step back to give you room to think about like identity and technology and like otherwise you're just going to be more in your character head. But if you're a little more like, okay, well, I'm the sniper and these are my cool things, I'm gonna do that. But when I'm not, who am I?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it leaves room for that to come out while you're playing, and that, because that's the kind of story that you're trying to tell is, partly about identity and what makes you and things like that is like, like you said, kind of like by virtue of the source material, like that's, you don't want to know all of that ahead of time because that's part of what you're doing in the game is determining what makes you a person. And the
one other thing is something that we said, I think that there's value in is that, when you do have all the characters who do have these incredible build outs with these a lot of hours and choices, that does lead to a game that you could play for years, where this is going to be, like if you play 20 sessions or something, that'd be incredible. I mean, there's going to be levels of advancement that just like this game can't give you like that. But you get faster character creation. It knows more what it is. You're going to get a better, more Ghost in the Shell experience for those 3 to 5 times you play it, or those 6 sessions you play it, or whatever you do, which is going to hit more of that wheelhouse. But like if you want to play Ghost in the Shell forever, I've made some of those choices for you, and you could, and there'd be some fun because how character design can change because of new shells and new kinds of things. But not like Eclipse Phase or something that's going to give you character options for days, So.
But like it's fast enough where you could be like, okay, we finished the campaign with this group, but let's play in the same existence where all that stuff is canon. And now let's play a different group.
Yeah, for sure.
In that same world, right?
It's a little bit of the story game.
Things.
Story game versus the trad game is that the trad game does have longer legs. Not that I think many of us actually want that or get there, get that far, but
it would be very anime though, right? To be like, okay, now we're playing the second group, right?
Yeah.
As if it's a whole new offshoot series in the same world. And then you get the cameos from your old characters as NPCs every now and then.
Yeah, especially because that does happen, right? Is that public security, the section grows and there's more than one team and that, so not in our era, like 2029 is like when it gets formed and then like it's kind of like the one team. But, if this grew out to the standalone complex time period and later on, right, like that's going to grow. And it clearly gives rooms for players to easily do that or game masters to easily do that. Like if they don't want to be the team, they're like the team of this country or that country or this province or,
Right.
Oh, my favorite part. Gosh, I probably said it a bunch because it sounds trite, but the character creation is one of my favorite parts. And by one, I mean like, and maybe my favorite, but like, we still at almost all the playtests have always done character creation unless we're continuing. And it's because I like the choices. It's fast enough. It's been fun enough, interesting enough. It hasn't taken away. And that says a lot, especially if like people pay to play at Gen Con or something that like, and we've used code names because we couldn't announce that it was Ghost in the Shell. Like, so like I was running games like called Ghosts Among Us and stuff. And people are like, oh, I played that, but I heard about Ghost in the Shell. I was like, you played this. I just couldn't call it that.
Right.
And I needed strangers and feedback and all kinds of stuff. So, because when you get to the play's great. And I love the mission design. I guess if I could pick another thing that wasn't obviously what we did was I really like the info warfare specialist thing. I really like how that leads to this starting of every game and like so much of the game. Like it's one thing to talk about it, but there's just so many things where the players ask you something and you're like, Ishikawa here. So what I'm finding on the feeds or the comms is like you just role playing back to them, right?
Yeah.
What they ask you as a player.
It reminds me of the chief in Carmen Sandiego. Like that's what I keep like in my brain is like in the back there. Like
because you kind of have this focal point, and then when it's not them, it can be like the prime minister or like the chief of public security who's actually calling to HQ or meeting you in a weird place, and then like you're role playing them at a safe house talking to you, and then they leave, and then you ask questions. So that came out of talking with a couple people about the idea of it. And then we played it and it was great. So the Quick Start currently talks about assigning those roles to like different players. So they kind of have a secondary player that's not like them all the time, but like when people ask, because the best games of it are when I have like a GM first mate or something who's like, hey, what are you guys playing? And they're like, could you be this character? And then I basically just go, okay, this is what he knows. And then they role play it, and that's fun because they give so much of a new independent person, right? So it'll be neat to see what we get to at the end of it, because some players like that and some players don't. It's just a matter of if some player, and it'd be a volunteer thing, like you don't have to do it. But if some person's like, oh, cool, I play the snarky info warfare specialist, So they need just enough character, but then to remember, like, oh, that dude, why is he always so short with me? Like you have to be able to, again, because the ribbing nature and the talking and like, inside jokes.
Well, this is our favorite part of the show, which is our fan fiction section where we talk about what would happen if we ever played this game, which we will not do. So I'm curious, like what kind of problem is this group best suited to solving? Like what kind of conflicts are we going to come up against? Like, how does this?
So the ideas are usually like when we go back to that counterterrorism, what that means is terrorists are usually like creating bombs, kidnapping people, ransoms.
Classic terrorists.
Yeah, so it's a lot of these things just like kind of up to 11 in ways.
Yeah.
Which are things like, we're trying to get to this vice minister before this speech to brain alter, or wipe their mind, or do. One of the things that we see is like, or we've put a virus in people. So this whole line of cops turns and shoots the protesters, when we say the code word, so you get all kinds of these elements of usually that or like new technologies. Like, okay, we have somebody's created some new form of AI and the AI has taken over different bodies, which could be some rogue agent that doesn't make sense. You realize, oh, it's more of a supreme being AI that's, like taking over this shell. There are elements too of like, obviously the intrigue of like messing with people and their own technology. Like, hey, this story could start with like, the ongoing thing is, you're in this mission and we're having things go fray, like you're having mechanical issues, and then leading that there was some update issue. So these are the kinds of things that they're usually dealing with, like technological horror or more normal terrorist things we'd think about, but then on bigger scale. So like the police wouldn't be as good at because the police is doing groundwork control, and you're that special team that can kind of like jump on jets, go where they need to go, open all the doors if need be, right? Which leads to cool moments too, like not necessarily even heists, but like, the person who is the person who's going to be kidnapped could be like on the 47th floor, in a ballroom party, and you're going to break in through the windows like some Mission Impossible, or while you're all like in thermo camo, like invisible, or at least one of you is doing that while one of you's in the party schmoozing, and one of you is like, incognito or as a bodyguard in disguise, So these are the kinds of things you'd think about in what many of the scenarios are. And they can't be wartime too, because you are in a way of like counterterrorism is not far off from like war.
Right.
You could go have to assassinate, remove extractions, take this scientist out of so-and-so. This special equipment needs to be, disenabled or destroyed, sabotage, so these kinds of things happen too. They've already made the thing and we have to stop it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would we, because like we've got a very much a face investigative character. We've got a stealth face, for lack of better words, right? Hacker. And then we've got a car on legs.
I'm just picturing, Dunk so like awesome. Grappling up the side of a building and just like people looking out the window, like what's going on?
Really
and
ridiculous.
Just, like while the rest of us are like stealthily trying to like infiltrate the party, and but the spider car is walking up the side of the building.
It's one of the humor things, right? In all this seriousness, that there is something off to the side that everyone should notice and think is ridiculous, but then like they don't,
right?
And it's like that.
I can see like Amelia, your character, like schmoozing in the party and all that sort of stuff, being the distraction.
Yeah.
And
we're
then
in a room full
I'm
of
sitting
diplomats,
here,
and I am talking my way through. Yeah.
And then like we see the grappling hook in the background while all eyes are on you, and like shoot past the window, and then up comes this spider robot with this like person dressed in stark white perched on top of it as it like rolls up the side.
Yeah, well, I'm very quickly talking to a group of people being like, did you see over there instead? Like, just.
Yeah, they have a way of being distraction and a way of like being kind of incognito when they need to, which is very weird because like you're a small car. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but the idea of like then, hacking the security system, stealing that one random briefcase that one guy had, that
The one thing is because you're always still like a small team, it's not going to change much if it's like 3 or 5 people, right?
Yeah.
You won't have a sniper, but it's like not everyone is always like right there in the thick of it in the same way, right? Like, you know, a lot of times maybe the sniper is like in the next building and they're doing some recon, but they're taking targets, but they're also, and then they move closer as they have, or they've moved point to point. You know, the Logicoma might be more outside usually in the cases like this if it's a building. But yeah, because of the grappling hook, they can scale and be ready, even if it's to like shield someone, like, and then and they can bust through the windows. They're not so big they couldn't go into a floor, right? But it does force a lot of times where you're gonna need some way of like either being one of the bodyguards or one of the people or in the crowd. But because of your network with public security, like the police are in on it, right? Like you're just higher up to the boss that could say, hey, these guys are going to be here. You won't see them. But like if this goes down, don't mess with them, right?
Right.
So there's levels too of like the police are on your side, even though they don't always know what's going on. So of course they can become the problem too.
For sure.
But like they will be eventually called off. It's just a matter of, you know, but it's weird too because some of your anonymity is it's your strength in your problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can't ever be like Section 9, you know, like we our authority is greater than you, but then you talk to their boss and your boss talks to their boss and it's like all cleared up, you know, like.
Yeah, I do like that stealth and subterfuge are probably generally our first lines of attack for most issues. And like, you know, get me to the top and I'll hack into the tower and then we'll be able to get control of some of the building subsystems or whatever, right? And then now we can stealth and subterfuge more easily or something, you know.
And in typical Ghost in the Shell fashion, right, there'll be like reasons why the encryptions are kind of making it so that you need to get to the key person, you know, because like the database is actually like part of their cyber brain that you need to hack to get to the information you need. Or, you know, we can't tell for sure if they have a virus in their mind unless we go into their mind. And the risk is too great. So we have to go actually be the ones to go hack them. Maybe we have to catch them in the bathroom to hack them just to see if they're okay. And then you could get the virus. You hack them, but the virus goes to you. And, you know, so there's a lot of things that are, again, almost technological horror, right? And then you're in the fritz and you're talking to the others, but like, are you? Because there are obviously like people like just like you can be hacked. Your ghost can be reduced and you could be like, okay, I woke up and I'm not dead. And you don't know what they did to you.
Exactly.
And then before you know it, you're the next Manchurian candidate or you have a virus. And then after it gets its day in the limelight, then you can get it fixed or repaired or changed, you know. But there will be a moment and that paranoia will bleed out into other play too, which is fun.
Yeah. That makes sense. Are the Logicomas in the Ghost in the Shell world like somewhat ubiquitous? Like, do rich people have Logicoma bodyguards or like, you know,
I have not seen
stuff like that?
No, I've only seen public security and the military.
Okay.
Yeah, and they kind of always relate to they're kind of outdated. Because like the original movie, like they had one of the classic fight scenes was like an actual like big, strong, powerful spider tank. So it's funny how like it's almost like because of the original movie that was such a iconic thing for Ghost in the Shell, so it kind of carried out. I'm sure like they're in the manga. But I didn't notice in like the earlier manga them talking, and I just may have already forgotten. But clearly when you watch like Arise, you know, they're talking all the time. So
but that could be like a fun angle too, right? Like Amelia, your character has like this undercover rich person, you know, persona.
Oh, you have
to get into a place.
You could buy one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you just have one. This is my bodyguard. Look at the wealth that I have.
Yeah.
Right?
I got one that has graffiti all over it.
I mean, you only get so many options when you're looking for these things, but like, you know, this one's mine.
And that's fun because that kind of plays with the element of it, like you are part of the problem, at least your demeanor on the outset. People looking as like, oh yeah, rich people who get whatever they want, government property. But I bet it even still works for public security, but it's theirs. Like, so it's subsidized, but really like we all know who it works for. Like, and then, but then it's funny because then you're like, yeah, but I'm actually one of those agents. You know, like it's like it's like a double. You're undercover, you know, but it's funny that you could play to the problem. You're the Bruce Wayne, right? The playboy Bruce Wayne, so that no one thinks they get to be Batman. The disciplined Batman, yeah.
Exactly. it's so interesting the amount of ways that like this small little group can wiggle their way into certain situations.
Yeah. I mean, just by like virtue of the fact that you're like already like established, like it's like known, like you have the resources, you are above these, you know, that it's like there is some level of like it needs to happen so you can do it because, you know.
It's neat too because we start with that in media res. You know, I'm probably using that term too much, but like, so you get that moment of, at least in the get-go, like you're like, oh, we're awesome. You know, the GM doesn't challenge like why you're on the next building over and why that's the best spot, or why you're like in the painters, like what do they call those scaffolds or whatever. You just get to introduce your character wherever you think would be like the place they would be for the job that you were told to do. And then something's going to go sideways. But it does give you that element of like, I don't care how you got in the building. Like you're going to get in the building. Like that's not even where the challenge is. Like, especially because in the intro, like we just assume you had set this up however you needed to set it up, you know? But then going forward, so at least you do start in this place where you feel kind of like strong and good. Usually you have some challenge that you can, you know, like, I don't want to say easily handle, but you have some taste of something really bad, but then some challenge you can handle. And then it gives us a little more to like okay, what does this mean? Go talk to the boss, debrief, or what leads are we going to go? You can fast forward with those favors, you know, like at any point of this, which is not the game you want to play. And then we get towards one of these, you know, it doesn't have a typical Forge in the Dark, like skip to the end.
Right.
Because again, but instead we gave you these like tokens to fast forward through parts, right? And I think that was better because you feel in the action, but you feel like you got to do the work, you know? So, but you don't have to do any of the work you don't want to do. You're like, I don't want to canvas the scene. Can I roll recon? Okay, cool. What do they tell me? Do we have to role play that? I'm going to call in a favor.
Yeah. I think that lets players like experience the game in whatever place they find the fun to be.
And I really want to fight. Like I said, it looks like it got changed from the last time I touched it, but I like that every player had that because some players aren't going to care and some of them are. So that each of them feels like, you know, instead of being the Chaos Goblin or instead of being like hey, so I'm playing my phone or like whatever it is, you can be like, okay, I think I'm good. Like, I don't really, for whatever reason of your fun, I'm good. Like, hey, where we go next? You know, call in the favor.
Yeah.
Because it's not the investigative game about that. It's about the thriller part. You know, it's about the hunt. It's not about ever being like, hey, I don't know who else to ask questions to. You know, like I feel like we asked everybody the questions and nobody gave us something. And even then, when you hit that moment, the GM goes, "Hey, you want to call in favor?" And you go, "You know what I do?"
Yeah, you're right. I am kind of stuck and getting bored of this cycle of questions and not figuring out the puzzle.
So hopefully, as play goes on, players in all groups go. Anytime I even start to feel bored, I can just be like, let's move forward.
Yeah. Which I think is, you know, we've talked multiple times about like how much time you have to invest in games and sitting at a table and playing and making the most out of your time too, which I think is something that like, you know, it becomes more and more important as we all have more demands on us to be able to say like, cool, you know, I love that the game has this option. That's not where the fun is for me. And I only have so much time, you know, for my leisurely activities. Like, let's jump ahead and do what's fun for me.
And hopefully, if nothing else, it's just a way mechanically that you feel agency to tell the players, like, hey, can we move forward?
Yeah.
Instead of like sitting back and being like, okay, well, I'm just waiting for everyone to stop doing legwork.
Right. Like, okay, I've only got another hour and it's
just not a game about legwork, which is a kind of a newer concept on these games. It's like, legwork is, if it's fun for you, do all the legwork you want. But for plenty of people it isn't, here's a way around it. You know?
Exactly.
And I hope you use it because I think that you'll find it, even if you like legwork, you could speed some of it up, you know, and the parts that you don't.
Yeah. Well, speaking of moving things forward, let's get into our advancement discussion
and
take it up a level.
I loved that.
It was.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
So in this segment, we talk about character advancement and growth in the system.
Yeah. So
how does character advancement work? And what happens mechanically for players?
So some of the things retouching, the best, biggest, cool concepts outside of cool, you get experience and you do things like in typical Forge in the Dark game, you do things that like reinforce the themes, we give you XP, you know? I always install something I call gratitude in every one of my games, which is some way of thematically putting it in that like you have a moment that you put a spotlight on what somebody else did at the table that made it better for you. Because I think that players and GMs talk, but players don't always say enough good stuff about the other players, right? So you remind people like, hey, but when you had that voice, that made the whole session for me. Or when you said this thing, that was the best, you know? And if you get every player in the habit of ending games, not to mention you all leave happy because you're all leaving like after everyone gave each other kudos. It reminded us of why it was so good, you know? Like even if the ending was like it kind of like is a great way to end. But you know, it's going to have a typical XP system. But where it really sings is the way that like we were saying that like your shell is completely replaceable. So the dynamic of that is like just so open and almost bizarre, like in the way that can change character from one arc to the next, or even lead to arcs where like you're in a little girl's body, you know, or you are in a little android body, and you are in, you know, like a construction machine, and what that'll mean narratively and story wise, and like because there was even times in Ghost in the Shell where like Kusanagi or someone else was like put in a different body for a while. Yeah. And that's a whole different thing, right? Like game wise. So a lot of it's going to deal with that. The idea of moving your cyber brain, what it means. People are going to die. Like, you know, they're going to die again and again, but did somebody crush that brain, you know? And then in the way they will go on. So it's not unconventional in the XP part, but it gets really cool when you start thinking about all that transhumanist stuff.
Yeah.
And the slice that it is, and how unique that'll be for a Forge in the Dark game, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, some of the modularity of like, what about when characters, like you have a three character party, what about like how that's going to make you at times feel like inadequate and what you're going to try to do to overcompensate and then undercompensate, you know? So like there's the ebbs and flows too of the character growth.
Yeah, I think just the difference in like how do you problem solve based on like how the people around you see you. You know, it's like if you are, you know, this investigator and suddenly like you're in a small child's body, like people aren't going to give you the same kinds of like helpful answers when you're doing those kinds of things, and like how that forces you to navigate things differently.
And then things like obviously like having enhancements have neat caps right now that aren't explored here, but there are neat caps that balance with the playbook abilities. There's kind of some levels of like if you have enough of these, you can't have any more of these. So there's always some balancing acts that'll be interesting because they'll limit some of your choices, but in the same way, then make you strategize if you like moving your points around to do things of how you may want to get a new body, so you can change this about you because the only way I could change the cybernetics might be to get a new body with a new loadout.
Right.
And then some of the choices, like you had the one where you're mostly human and you'll never have that option, but there'll be ways you can excel and grow in one dimension as some of, like I was saying, the enhancement stack, like you need this enhancement to be able to get this next one as a prerequisite. So, and then it's kind of obvious, but because I said earlier, but the actions, you know, your action list will grow and those plug lines will grow out. So it'll be neat when those become like corkscrews. You know, this one's attached to this and then these two. So if I go through track, I could still do this demolish one or obliterate action that I have. And now that my heavy weapons expert had demolish, also has obliterate, and now has, you know, like how can I use that with a targeting of precision, and you know, so so more things, more specializations, more growth outward, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
What I really hope to have for you that I don't have good answers for right now is how the ghost memories evolve, right? So there are levels of the humanity of the character, the soul of the ghost that we have ideas for, but nothing's been put in anything that you can play with yet. So
that'll be exciting.
I will leave that for when there is the play, because that's one of the areas that I have continued to think about. That again, if I could continue to develop, like, what is the ghost, you know?
That sounds really cool. I cannot wait for the full book of this game.
I don't know what it is, but I love the idea of the full book of this game, and I don't always feel that way from like the teaser to the full. You know, this game, I think the full is going to be incredible. So
yeah, absolutely, it's going to have a lot more options to think about and kind of really blend your characters together in very interesting ways. Very cool.
It's a designer's dream, honestly, in some of these cases. Like it's so cool. And it's so great. These things get like start and stop sometimes. So it's just so cool that it was like, okay, now Kickstarter happening the 4th, but I had like a little more than a month's notice too. So I didn't,
of course,
it's all very like, did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? Go, 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 go.
Just let the floodgates open.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Pete, anything else that you want to say? Last thoughts about the game before we head out for the series?
I guess just because you want to hit it home, right? You want to close. It's just that if you like Ghost in the Shell and you are big into these concepts, which I think is what makes person a Ghost in the Shell person versus like just a cyberpunk person.
Yeah.
Nothing against Cyberpunk 2077, just cyberpunk the genre, is these bigger questions of like identity, man versus machine. Who are we? Where's the line? What does that mean for society? If these are things that really interest you, and I think would be the reasons why you became a diehard for Ghost in the Shell, this game is going to be incredible for you. And I really hope that you check it out and you give it a little bit of space and time if it's not like the system you're used to or the kind of rules or play, because I think it's going to take you places. And it's not something that you have to, spend hours on character creation or spend sessions upon sessions to really get to the heart of it. But I think that, if you play 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there, like get a taste for it in a couple sessions. And then the reason I'd even say 3, 4, 5 is because maybe by then your GM, whoever they are really in the swing of things. Like they really have gotten mastery of it, because it's a little more crunch than a lot of your, Forge in the Dark or Power of the Apocalypse people are going to are going to be used to. So there's going to be a little bit of like, it's a little crunchy. And then you're going to get the other side where it's going to be like, it's kind of a story game, but it's like it's Forge in the Dark, but like, I don't know. I didn't really understand that rule system. One of the things we did with Chew, it should carry over to Ghost in the Shell, is like a really well explained, even if it's more pages of details, like what is situation and effect? How does that work? How do I use these things? It can look a little daunting for the game master, but it's for a lot of these games, they always look more daunting than they are.
Yeah.
So,
once you get used to it, just like Power of the Apocalypse, once you get used to GMing one session of one of the types of games, it's a lot smoother every subsequent one.
Yeah. So hopefully in the GM section, there'll be good ideas of like the kind of bullet points you need to really get a game going, not the full blown details and lore that you need to write your adventure,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Pete, thank you so much
this
for
was
joining
incredible.
us.
Yes,
so
this was
great.
so much
Ghost in the
fun.
Shell sounds amazing.
It was such a good catch up too. Like
It was. I know. I mean, it had been like a whole week since we last talked to you, so we really had a lot to catch up on.
But when it's been 4 years and we've never really met in person, like other than maybe a hi, So
yeah, no.
Absolutely. Well, can you remind everyone where they can find you online, where they can find this game, and what sorts of other things you got going on?
So you can go to Kickstarter and you could look up Ghost in the Shell, and it should pop right up. That was the little tag beyond the normal Kickstarter text. Of course, if you go to imagininggames.com or manaprojectstudio.com, you'll find links there to take you right to the Kickstarter and probably on all of our social medias. Mana Project Studio is the publisher. So go to them for resources and questions. I know they have like downloads for the character sheet and the quick start and stuff. Don't Panic is our partner as well. So you see Don't Panic and Mana Project Studios. That is the right game. You won't see Imagining Games. You probably just see my name listed in the credits and stuff. But it's been a real thrill and fun to work on. These are kind of projects that you're like, okay, now I can be done, right? Like this I got to make that. But yeah, other things is we have the TTRPG Designed for Dummies is coming out. Like I believe November is the release, and it's cool to have a dummies book that's TTRPG design, written by Martin Bunicki, who is a professor here and local to me in Valparaiso, Indiana, who teaches classes like writing in RPGs.
Cool.
So I was the technical editor. I didn't write it, but I was one of the 3 people who worked on it, and it was fun, and I got to read it ahead of time, so that's nice.
Oh, cool.
And like I said, there was a Halcyon Adventures in the latest Battlelords of the 23rd Century game. If you write that adventure, it's the one at the end by the Annie Award-winning, designer or whatever. I tell you, it's great, but I'm biased. It does have themes of like trafficking and kidnapping, though, so mileage may vary.
Yeah.
So. And keep an eye on Imagining Games because we're always making cool stuff. We got Chew and Broken Tales and Rest in Pieces, but we have a whole laundry list coming up. The next one is Teenage Mutant Teenage Ninja Fighting School for Zine Quest. Though there are a couple other titles that we're messing with. But that has been the one that we're like, I don't know. It's us people in our 40s who like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, we like the reference, the play there. Some people who are young are like, does it have to be teenage? Teenage doesn't matter. Kids don't ever want to play kids. You know what that is? Right. Yeah. Teens don't want to play teens, but it's a very fun throw to like games like, things like Dragon Ball. Yeah. You are the last bastion of human society against the monster horde that has wiped out the world. And how do you fight them? Why are you the last bastion? Because, of course, you're ninjas. Or you have martial arts. Yeah. And it's got a very cool, like, you break up a deck of cards and different playbooks have different suits that they use. And it creates a lot of support and flashbacks and all kinds of stuff that makes combat like really narrative and storytelling. So it's got a cool structure. I'm sure I'm going to be bothering you two about it later. So
yeah. You know where to find us.
Yeah.
Well, Pete, thank you again for sitting down with us. This was so much fun, and thank you to everyone for tuning in.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
Well, that wraps another series for the year, the last series of 2025. We do have a break coming up. I'll mention that in a little bit in our calls to action portion. But I wanted to thank Pete for being an amazing guest on the show, an amazing personality, an amazing person to have run into at GameholeCon. Was not expecting to see more than a couple people that I knew there, and seeing Pete there was very refreshing. It makes me want to go to more cons. I saw a whole bunch of activity around PAX Unplugged, and gosh, there's so many friends that I have that go to PAX Unplugged. It's a little out of driving distance for me, but maybe I can make it work at some point. I don't know. It seems exciting, but that's neither here nor there. This series was fantastic. Pete was fantastic. This game seems a lot of fun. Definitely check it out. There's only a couple days left. Again, going over that in a few seconds anyway. So I might as well just dive into the calls to action. So let's do that before we let you go for the day. First up, with the month of November being pretty notorious for scheduling hardships for us and many others, and we really, really need some time to recuperate from this waves hands everywhere year that we've been having. We are planning to take a break for the month of December to give us more time to plan out some future series. We can get things rolling for January's series and beyond, as well as it gives me a little bit of a break from editing so that I can focus on other freelance projects, as well as some of the bonus stuff that we have from GameholeCon. There's a couple bonus episodes for the Patreon that's going to be good time for me to get that edited as well. Things have been pretty rough lately in life for both of us. So this is a much needed break, but we do plan to be back in January. And we might even do some Undying Bonds live streams in December sometime. We'll figure that out with Amelia and see if we can get that in the books. So stay tuned to our Discord, our social media channels, or even our Patreon for when we decide on a date for that. Next up, the crowdfunding campaign for Ghost in the Shell is nearing an end. It is doing fantastic right now. They have about 3 days left in the campaign when this episode releases. And as of this recording, we have just 2 more stretch goals left before they either run out of stretch goals or pour some more in there. So if you want to get in on the campaign before it closes and help unlock those last couple bits, check it out right now at the link in our show notes. In other calls to action, we would love it if you checked out the C3 Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. We are still just very slightly behind on our funding goal to get to that original $160 a month goal. And we would love to order some enamel pins and send them out to our campaign level patrons. Just one more patron should get us there, so definitely check it out. If we can get some momentum and get to $200 a month, not only will that unlock yearly subscriptions for our supporters at a discount, it will also mean we can afford to pay Fiona, our webmaster, a bit more every month to update the backlog of games on our site as well. I think we can get there by the end of the year if we just get 4 or 5 more campaign level backers. That's at the $10 level, and at that level you get a load of stickers, our custom 3d6 set of C3 dice from ChessX, all of our bonus episodes, and a whole lot more. The other tiers have some great perks as well, so check it out if you have the chance. In addition to all of that, we'd like to thank our current patrons every episode. Your support truly helps out a great deal, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Starting with Lieutenant, DJG, aka Tyrannosaurus, and Eric Bonds. Thank you all so much. Many thanks to Daryl Holiday II, Shadim Kabal, and the Shy's Barbarian. Benjamin Sweeney, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown, thank you all for your support. Tentacle Duck, John Adamus, and A3 Sketchpad, thanks for helping us make this show. Thank you to Carlos Salazar, Eric S. and Ian Popmeyer, Liam G., Brian Colm, and Garden GM. We are so grateful to all of you. Thank you. Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny, our deepest thanks to all of you. Nicole Trainer, Liam Murray, and Kenning, we're happy to have you here with us. Thank you. Thank you to Brian Kurtz, Mark E. Fair, and Drew Owen. Your support brings us so much joy. Thanks to Oz, Sean Metcalf, and Robert. We are so glad to have you here with us. Kevin Bates, Deadly Edley, and Allison Cole. We are so grateful to all of you as well. And finally, Ronald Pyatt. Welcome to our Patreon, and we are so thankful to have you here with us. And thank you to all of our future patrons. If you want to join this phenomenal group of individuals, please head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast and help us out. And with more assistance, we'll be able to make those website upgrades to make exploring your favorite games that much easier. And if you want to join in the discussion with our hosts, some of our guests, and a bunch of fans, head on over to our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. Finally, if you want to help us out in another way that doesn't require any money, you can leave a rating and review for our show on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict. We will read every new 5-star review as we get them, and as we both have a chance to record together. That's all we have for today's episode. And just a reminder, we will be on break throughout the holidays, so you can find us back in action on January 5th with a new series that we have yet to record. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and have a safe holiday season, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.